Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. If you like the video today, please comment and share it. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. And today, we got a very special guest. And I'm very excited. The gentleman is only 18 years old and one of the top sports announcers, sportscasters, handicappers in all of professional sports college, wherever way you want it. And listen for this name, Zach Hirsh, because when I think about this young man, looking over his bio, I think about all the broadcasters that I followed in the day. Jimmy the Greek Snyder, Vic Imberg, Jim McKay, Howard Cosell, Keith Jackson. This young man right here is wrapped up in all of them, and he's coming. So, for further ado, here 100 Yards of Football, let me introduce him. He's only 18 years old, Mr. Zach Hirsh. How you doing today, young man?
I'm doing great. We've got football on tonight. We had football on yesterday. It's always a good day to get football.
Okay, man, we're going to jump right into the interview, man. Tell me a little bit about your background, where you was born, where you was raised.
So I was born and raised in South Florida, not too far from the Dolphins in that area. And, I've always been a huge football fan growing up. I always played football, basketball too. And my number one passion is sports.
Okay. When did you realize, man, seriously, when you had this special talent that a lot of people out on social media are going crazy over you? When you're able to analytic, break down the games, know about all these professional teams, when did you realize this and what age, my man?
I'd have to say when I was about 11 or so, because my dad was at a smoothie place and they had a pool where you would put in about $50 and 10 or so people would do it and the winner would get the pot. And my dad filled it out for fun and he brought one home for me and I filled it out without second thought. And I forgot about it. And then a few weeks went by and my dad went back to the smoothie place. I said, "Are you Zach?" He goes, "No, that's my son's name." They go, "Oh, because he won the football pool. He got every pick right." He went 16-0 on his picks.
Okay.
So I got the money, and then after that, I knew it was pretty good.
Okay. Now I'm going to go back to 2019 on the college level. Looking at your bio, you went on a 20-win streak in college football?
Yeah, I went 21-0 on my picks last year.
Wow. Tell the truth, Zach. Did you have LSU winning it all?
Yeah, I had LSU winning it all. I had them in the SEC championship. I had them in both playoff games. And I rode LSU all year. I had them against Florida in the regular season. And I was a big believer in that team. And I think pretty early on, I realized they were going to go undefeated and win the championship because they were a different team. You know, every once in a while, especially in college football, you see a team that's just, I don't know, has that it factor, especially with the quarterback Joe Burrow, offensive coordinator Joe Brady, wide receiver Jamar Chase. They were just so impossible to stop, and Burrow was just so on fire that I knew no team would be able to keep up with them.
Okay, now we're going to get to the meat and potatoes because the NFL is really your specialty, right?
Yeah, the NFL is my number one passion. It's my favorite sport.
Now we're going to start with something. Now to Cowboy Nation out there. As you see, Zach, I've been a Cowboys fan since 1966. And Zach's favorite team is the Dallas Cowboys, the greatest franchise in all of professional football. Now, Zach, when did you become a real diehard Dallas fan, and what made you love the star? What made you want to be part of Cowboy Nation?
I've been a Cowboys fan since I can remember, honestly. And my dad's a huge Cowboys fan, so every Sunday that's what's on. You know, Cowboys jerseys, Cowboys hats. My room is all Dallas Cowboys. My old dog, his name was Romo, so we're definitely a Dallas Cowboys household.
When did you start following the players and really be ingrained into the franchise? What years did you really start? Really, go ahead. I'm sorry. What years did you follow the team when you started?
Yeah, when I was super young, like maybe 4 or 5 years old. I was like studying the rosters and like going up to people and naming 20 players. You know, Miles Austin, Tony Romo, Jason Witten, DeMarcus Ware, those types of guys.
Okay, and of course you followed them throughout the history. Like I said, I've been a fan since 1966. Of course, I'm a little older than you, and we're not going to make this a Dallas Cowboys show, but I'm going to just throw some facts out there about the Dallas Cowboys, why these young men like the Cowboys so much. We're the first franchise in 2018 to go over $5 billion. We got 50 players in the Hall of Fame. You look at the name of the players that we had on our roster: Herschel Walker, Dan Meredith, Tony Dorsett, Drew Pearson, Tony Hill, Hollywood Henderson. You mentioned Tony Romo. The list go on and on. Joy Galloway, Everson Wiles, Herb Allen, Mel Renfro. So that's why Cowboy Nation is so recognized, and that's why that young man picked this team. So Zach, let me ask you this: How do you think the Cowboys right now, being 2-3? What's your observation for them so far going into 2020 and losing Dak Prescott? What do you see them going up? Do you see them ascending, or do you see them descending?
I think maybe a slow, steady rate, and I think that because I think Andy Dalton can keep them afloat, certainly, and he's obviously a better quarterback than probably some guys starting today, but he's not a Dak Prescott type. He's not that type of ceiling, right? He's not going to drag defenders around if the pass rush gets to him. He's not going to make a super incredible play like a Dak Prescott could potentially, but I think he's going to make the smart reads. He can certainly read a defense. He's got a great group of receivers. But the offensive line, man, it's tough because they're without their starting left tackle, without their starting right tackle. It's really tough. There's not a lot of time in the pocket, and then they're not great run blockers either. So it just kind of suffocates everything. But I think they're definitely the front leaders in the division. But the defense, man, the defense, probably the worst group in the NFL. They're horrible against the pass. They're horrible against the run. They get gashed everywhere. They have no defensive tackles. For some reason, I don't know. They have no defensive tackles. So, and their number 1 3-tech, Tristan Hill's out for the year now. So now they're even worse at defensive tackle somehow. It's hard to win when you don't have defensive tackles.
Yeah, you just kind of hurt my feelings there because they have a young man that's on the roster by the name of Ontario Paul, and he's from the 901, where I'm from, Memphis, Tennessee. But you just put him out there as him being a pretty bad football player this season. And make a long story short, you telling the truth, because he has not produced at no level. But let's get into the NFL, young man. Right now, your toughest division. Right now, which division is rocking at the highest level? See, do we agree on this?
I think it's got to be the AFC West. And, the NFC West. And
Okay.
the NFC West, you've got the 49ers, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Cardinals. I think they all have explosive offenses, and I think they're all really well coached. And I think that's probably the biggest X factor, right? And you got Sean McVay, Pete Carroll, Kyle Shanahan, and now Cliff Kingsbury, who's a real offensive guy. They can all potentially beat each other. We saw earlier this year the Cardinals beat the 49ers. They can all beat each other. They're all 4 potential playoff teams, and I think they're all really dangerous.
And I totally agree with you there that when I looked at my information, I was judging the divisions. There's no question about the NFC West is the top. And I'm very surprised. But to me right now, we had to do power rankings. Maybe you'll agree with me. Seattle is by far the best team in the league. It's very amazing how that young man out on the West Coast, I call him the Chico the Barge of football, Russell Wilson, is balling. And then it's really phenomenal how that young man out of Oxford, Mississippi, how did the NFL draft and all these other teams didn't get it right with the big stud, 6'4", 232 pounds, and DK Metcalf? He making everybody out there believe that he's the best receiver in the game. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think what really unlocked DK Metcalf's potential is Russell Wilson, because he's not a guy who can run every route in the route tree, nor does he have to. He just needs to run one, and that's the go route. And when you got a guy like Russell Wilson, it's unstoppable because of his size and speed. And I think a lot of teams look foolish now just because he can't run a great 3-cone. They didn't take him, but that's a very specialized weapon, but it's also a great weapon, especially in 2020. It's a passing league, and he's able to win with size and speed. That's all he needs.
Now, another question I want to ask you, even though the quarterback position right now is the most important position in the National Football League, but right now, if you had to start a team, who's the best running back? Because when you look at the running back positions have dominated the NFL over the history. The young man out of St. Simon's Island, by the way, the Cleveland Browns, Jim Brown. The young man out of Columbia, Mississippi, by the way, the Chicago Bears, Walter Payton. The young man out of Pensacola, Florida, Emmitt Smith, all-time leading rusher. So right now, in your opinion, who the best running back in the game right now as we talk at this moment at 7:12 Eastern Standard Time?
So I think if you're going to go with an all-around back, meaning receiving, running, and pass blocking, I think it's Ezekiel Elliott. But I think if you're going off of rushing and receiving, it's Christian McCaffrey because I mean he's a absolutely incredible receiver and running back. And if you just want a pure runner, I go with Derrick Henry. So I think it just depends what your offense is really and what your scheme needs exactly. But I think Zeke can fit into more offenses. I think every team can use a Zeke just because he's so proficient in all three areas.
Well, Zach, I'm not going to try to go against you there with you broke it down with all the great observations, but I just trying to keep it real, and I'm 60 years old, but I hate to even bring the young man's name up because right now the state of Alabama is at a very high after their important victory over the Dogs, University of Georgia. That young man out of the state of Florida, Derrick Henry, is making me a believer that, hey, I didn't think he deserved his money. He was in that small market in Tennessee, but right now, to me, Zach, he's the best running back in the game. Look, that 94-yard run and how he ran away from people this weekend against the Houston Texans reminds me of a young man out of Sealy, Texas, that went to SMU that had some great rules with the LA Rams by the name of Eric Dickerson. Not disagreeing with you, Zach, but if I had to say the best running back, it's got to be that young man, Derrick Henry. And I hate to say this. Excuse me, Zach. I got to get it in there. Roll Tide. Now, your MVP, baby, right now, middle of the season, 6 games in. If you had to give that MVP trophy out, who you going with?
I think this one's kind of cleared up because before yesterday, I might have said, oh, Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, but now it's Russell Wilson. And
Yes,
he's on a bye this week, so we didn't get to see him in action. But, you know, the Russ magic continues. I think the team has really figured out that you can pass on first down too. And I think that's the key with that team is just passing the ball and really threatening defenses because he's so good and so efficient and he can hit every ball in absolute stride. And I think he's likely one of the league's best players, maybe the league's best quarterback, and he's really rolling along with the team.
I totally agree with you, man. I call him the Chico DeBarge of football. Russell Wilson by far has played the best football than anybody. And I'm going to tell you this. I know a lot of people talked about Tom Brady being the GOAT. I understand that. Aaron Rodgers being at his level. But if you look what Russell Wilson has did out there in Seattle with the less talent he's had over the years and how he's been carrying that team offensively, I wouldn't say he's one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the game over the last 5 years. That's just my opinion. Let's move on. Now, young man, if you had to change any NFL rule right now, which rule would you change, Mr. Zach?
Yeah, not really a rule, but just like a thing that the referees do, maybe it should be a rule, is they blow plays dead way too early. I don't know what the infatuation is, even while the players making forward progress, to blow the whistle, but at least 5 times recently where a team has gotten screwed out of a touchdown on a fumble recovery because they blew their whistle way too early, and it cost the Jaguars the Super Bowl appearance. And we just saw it a couple weeks ago. It cost the Patriots. It's just ridiculous. I don't know why they blow their whistle so early, but it's better to blow it late than early.
Okay, and my final question with you this evening. When we look at people that do special things, and we could talk about sports all day, and of course, you're on a great trajectory as being one of the best sportsmen across the country and the world. The one thing that stuck out to me about your bio, tell everybody here on 100 Yards Football the work you did in Haiti, and you did it for free. And tell everybody, you went down there and just, man, when I read that bio, it just touched my heart.
Yeah, so a couple years ago, I got the opportunity to go to Grand Guave, Haiti, with an organization called Be Like Brit. And Be Like Brit runs an orphanage in Haiti. And they also, one of their main objectives is to build homes for homeless families in the area. So they've built hundreds of homes now. And I got the opportunity to go there and stay at the orphanage for a week and build a home. And we went through the whole process. We poured the concrete, we painted it, we did everything. And then since then, I've done all I could to continue to repay. And I've raised money to build 11 houses so far. And hopefully I can keep doing more by doing fundraisers and things like that. But I think it's really important to me. And of course, not a typical house, but they're hurricane proof, they're earthquake proof, and they keep them safe. And most of the people have never slept on a bed. They've never had a mattress. They've never had a key and lock. So it's a really important thing for the people of Haiti to have.
Okay, man, I know NFL has been your specialty, but man, before I let you go this evening, we got to go down a quick list of college football right now. Right now, man, who's the best team in the country? Clemson or Alabama from your observation?
It's tough, and I think both of these teams have such an advantage right now because their quarterback is so strong. And I don't think people realize how good Mac Jones was before coming to this year, but he's a stud. I'm going to go with Alabama, and I'm going to say that because of those receivers, Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith. They are just so electric, especially Waddle. I think he's pretty much impossible to cover. Reminds me a lot of a Tyreek Hill. And I think anytime you've got those type of receivers with the great quarterback, I think you're doing really well.
Okay, next question. This for the whole nation for 100 yards of football. Is the SEC the best conference in all of college football? Help me out, young brother.
Yeah, no debate. It's been the best conference for years. And you see a lot of different great franchises coming from there. LSU, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Florida. The list goes on. They're the undisputed king of college football for sure.
Now, my final question of the evening, I can keep you here all day, but my final question. When we look at high school football, would you rate the 305? Miami has the best high school players in the country. The 305, South Beach, South Miami, are they number one in the country?
It's an interesting question. From my experience, yes. Especially the speed that comes out of Miami is insane. There's so many fast guys that come from down here. I mean, you got Deerfield too, just Broward County has so many insanely fast. Lamar Jackson, we just saw Jerry Jeudy. The list goes on and on. Devin Hester in the past. There's so many fast guys, so many absolute stud athletes coming from here.
Okay, final word, Zach Hill. We're going to give you the final word here on 100 Yards of Football. What your people want to know about you and where can they find you and when can they get all this great information when you break it down and handicapping all these great games on the NFL and college level?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at iPickWins or Facebook, the same handle, at iPickWins, or my website, iPickWins.com. I do weekly sports picks across many different sports.
Okay, you heard him, the phenom, 18 years old, Mr. Zach Hirsh. And that concludes today, my guest here on 100 Yards of Football. And that's one thing I want to say. I'm not going to say Marvin Gaye today, but what I'm going to say is this. To the people out there that's been supporting 100 Yards of Football, I surely appreciate it. My name is Vincent Turner. I'm the baby boy and the only son of Chester and Inez Turner down there in the 901 in Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm proud of it, baby. So thank you for watching 100 Yards of Football with the young phenom, Mr. Zach Hirsh, and y'all be blessed during the week.